How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We just lost 63,000. We're sitting right around there now, but this is a very important moment, according to some analysts, for Bitcoin's price. We're either going back into the 50s or we're going to pump up significantly. I want to walk through what's happening right now, why we've fallen over the last few days, some news in the market that's really interesting, including PlanB chart that is brand new. If you don't know who PlanB is, he's probably one of the most famous analysts and anonymous analysts on crypto Twitter. And every month he goes through his view of the market, but he has a brand new chart that people loved on Twitter. So we want to explain it a little bit more. We also have news of Mr. 100 selling a significant amount of Bitcoin last week and starting to buy this week. And we have some big earnings literally in a few hours. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. Also, there is a link to Margex underneath the video in case you want to start trading here today. You can do that over on Margex. They're a great platform if you want more flexibility than most platforms give, because you can use all different forms of collateral. So on Bitcoin, you can trade Bitcoin, the Bitcoin chart, with Bitcoin or with USDT or with Ethereum or Caspa. So if you have some bag and you want more of it, you can trade one of the easier charts to trade out there, which is Bitcoin, because there's so much liquidity. And it's quite simple to get started. There's no KYC. You don't need a VPN. Of course, always check the terms and conditions, but you can start trading within a few minutes. Now let's take a look at Bitcoin. When you zoom out, it doesn't look that weird. It doesn't look that abnormal. It doesn't look that sad. But when you zoom in, people are starting to get a little bit freaked out because we're sitting right around 63,000. All right, we've fallen down a decent amount over the last few days when we were just at 70,000, right around the Bitcoin conference or right after the Bitcoin conference. There was a lot of excitement. There were a lot of politicians now pushing to get Bitcoin in the government. Several governors were talking about buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve for their states after Donald Trump talked about doing that as a nation. But now we're seeing some softness. To be clear, the whole market, the traditional markets, have also been pretty back and forth. Part of that is because there have been a lot of earnings. Like Microsoft had their earnings the other day. They actually shot down to $393. I sniped it there, and now it's back at $417. But we have some big earnings today, too. There might be some worry about these earnings. Coinbase, they have earnings today. USDT profited $5 billion already this year from U.S. Treasuries. Keep in mind, Coinbase also has a big hand in stablecoins. They also have a lot of money just on their platform sitting there. So this should be an interesting earning report from Coinbase. I would assume this is their best earnings in a while, like in years. I could always be wrong. Maybe the first quarter was even better because there was a lot of trading around that time. But it should be a good quarter for Coinbase. There are also a couple other big earnings reports. Apple and Amazon are reporting earnings as well, so be on the lookout for that. Should be probably some volatility around that. Now, Senator Cynthia Lummis just yesterday published the official strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation, saying that they think basically that the U.S. should buy Bitcoin. Buy 1 million Bitcoin. That's bullish. I mean, think about this. A couple of years ago when we were in the bottom of the bear market, if I had told you that 3 presidential candidates would be meeting with crypto companies, 2 of them would be talking about how the U.S. should either hold or buy Bitcoin, that there are senators saying that we need a strategic reserve of Bitcoin, and there are governors saying that they're going to do it, that there are pension funds, state pension funds, that is just also bullish. And I do think it's interesting. This was a point that was brought up during the Bitcoin conference. If you're thinking about national security, right, you want to have some asset that is valuable, that appreciates, that's not easy to steal. There aren't really assets like that besides Bitcoin, right? You can have oil, you can have water, you can have gold. Those are all easy if you get in a war for someone to conquer you and then take it from you. Bitcoin, they bomb you, they gas you, they attack you, they murder you. They can't take your Bitcoin. right? So that is fascinating. I think, sorry for getting a little bit graphic there for anyone that's a little bit sensitive to that, but it's true, right? That is valuable. The Bank of England just cut rates by 0.25% to 5%. The Fed is next. This comes after several other countries too, Canada, Denmark, Switzerland, and the EU. They're all cutting rates. You say, is the Fed going to be late again? Keep in mind there are some countries that are not cutting rates. Like I think Japan just raised rates by 0.25%. But it should be interesting. They sounded really dovish yesterday that they're going to cut next meeting, basically. Okay, but why is Bitcoin falling? Well, we're not getting a ton of help from the ETFs. We've actually seen a day or two of slight outflows. Yesterday, we had a slight inflow, but Fidelity still sold 490 Bitcoin. It's basically BlackRock putting the industry on their shoulders right now, continuously buying. Fidelity has zero inflows in the last 2 weeks. Now, there has been a lot of other stuff going on with the ETH ETFs, with Bitcoin 2024, with maybe a bit of a hole in future catalysts, like their catalyst coming this fall, right? With the Fed cutting rates starting in September, but people are looking at August thinking, okay, what's coming up, right? What's going to happen next? And you have to remember that this market, some people look at as a very short-term market, a very short-term thing. Like, hey, we need to produce results this quarter. We already had really good results for the first half of the year in our hedge fund. So let's take some profits, lock them in for the end of the year. We're going to outperform everyone that didn't buy a Bitcoin ETF if we have significant exposure, that is, because they're still up, 50%, 60%. So some people are locking in the profits and then just waiting. Or there is a lot of redistribution as well between like just tech companies in general that have done well. Like let's look at Amazon stock, right? Even just from the high a little while ago, we're down 8%. And you can do this with any stock, even Tesla stock, right? Tesla stock from the high just a few weeks ago, down 15%. Nvidia. This is down even more significantly. It's down 16.5%. So from some of those companies that have a lot to do with AI, because AI was a buzzword, they've started to rotate capital into companies like VG stock, which is a real estate company that's going to do well if they start lowering rates. And it's at the highest point that's been all year, essentially, since the very beginning of the year. Right, over the last 6 months, this is the highest point that's been. It pays a dividend, and you can see like the rotation has happened at the same time that people have rotated out of AI and out of tech. It's up 12% from the recent bottom a few weeks ago. So there is some rotation of capital just in general. There's also been a little bit of selling. For example, Mr. 100 sold over 2,000 Bitcoin just a few days ago. Now starting to buy, with today being some of the first purchases since midway through July, buying about 200 Bitcoin. And honestly, pretty good trade. Sold at 67 maybe on average, because it was 64, 68, 68. Now buying at 64 again. So honestly, pretty good trade when you're talking about that much money, right? Sold $43 million at a time here. That, little 6% difference will make a difference. It's a few million saved or made there. But we are looking bright ahead. We continue to see more and more people get access to crypto. We continue to see good things long term, including all the stuff that I've already mentioned in this video. And we continue to see more and more people get access to crypto. Hong Kong's largest online broker, Futu Securities, has launched Bitcoin and crypto trading, zero fee trading, and free Bitcoin rewards for new accounts. Futu has 22 million customers. We continue to see good things happen. I think it's important just to stay long-term focused. Just like we fell down to 63,000 in a few days, we can pump right back up. Like it can take less than this amount of time. It can take less than 4 days to move back up. I'm not saying necessarily that we do, but I think we do need to take a long-term outlook. I know some people are just getting burned out. I've seen some people say, I'm just so tired of this volatility in between these, $55,000, $53,000, and $70,000 numbers. Like, I just want to break out, and I get that, but that's what happens. Like, that's how whales get you out of the game, is that they make you exhausted. So try to stay long-term focused. Benjamin Cohen says, look like the 63.5 dollar mark held on the first attempt. Also, BTC is back above the 100-day simple moving average. If Bitcoin can get daily closes above 64K, then it favors bouncing back above 66K. If BTC gives up to 63.5, then I think alt BTC pairs would take quite a hit and Bitcoin would fall back into the 50s. Basically saying, hey, I think Bitcoin dominance will go up if we close below 64,000, which right now we are below 64, and we could see Bitcoin falling down another few $1,000s. So be ready for that. If you do want to trade that, like I said, there is a link to Margex underneath the video, but let's move on. Goldman now prices in 200 basis point of cuts through the year end of next year, 2025, and over 75 basis point cuts this year. So 0.75% this year, and then 1.25% next year. I mean, it's a good time to hold assets. If you think that's going to happen, like, just think about that. Everyone's going to get 2% less on their savings accounts, their CDs. They're going to be able to buy houses at mortgage rates about 2% lower than today. All assets should do really well in that kind of scenario. Now, I want to play you a clip by PlanB. This is from his YouTube channel. Go follow him. He makes about a video a month, and this is a new chart that talks about Bitcoin miner revenue. I know it doesn't sound like the sexiest thing in the world, but there are some really good points here that can determine kind of how selling happens in the market, because Bitcoin miners are some of the biggest sellers in the market. So they really do need to make some good money, and then they stop dumping on the market to fund operations, right? Or stop dumping so much. Let me play this video for you.
The bonus chart. And it's a new chart. I never talk about this chart. I tweeted it on X last week, and it got a lot of questions and likes. So I included it here. It's Bitcoin miner revenue, and it's very interesting at the moment. So what we see is the blocks on the x-axis. Every 210,000 blocks, we have a halving. So there's a block every 10 minutes. 210,000 10-minute periods is 4 years. So every 4 years, there is a halving. We just had one in April. And what happens at a halving is that miners' revenue halves as well, because they mine the new Bitcoins. And this is only new Bitcoins, by the way. It's not the fees, which is a small part of their revenue. So it's the new Bitcoins that they mint. But after a halving, they get half of those new Bitcoins, and their revenue drops overnight, which is horrible for any business to be in. And they have to recover from that. So usually what happens is that the small miners that have old equipment, inefficient equipment, uses a lot of electricity, and also that have high electricity prices, they can't mine at a profit anymore, so they drop out. They just quit. They're running at a loss, so they have to quit. And the new miners, the miners with new equipment, the latest and greatest in hardware, very efficient and lowest prices, maybe free energy prices, those are the ones that can still produce at a profit. Those will survive. So this shakeout, every halving is a very important event, a Bitcoin-specific structural event that happens every 4 years. And the entire Bitcoin market, Bitcoin itself, has to survive that shakeout. And we're in the middle of that right now. It's always very volatile. Hash rate drops. Everybody's talking about miner capitulation and that the miners will just quit, which never happened, by the way. It's just FUD. But what's important is that this industry is growing a lot. So in the beginning, a monthly revenue was only about $1 million for all the miners in the world. Right now, we're talking over $1 billion every month in revenue for Bitcoin miners. And at the peak, it was $2 billion. So that halved to just under $1 billion. And what we see now is very interesting. The only way for miners to recover, for mining revenue to recover, which it always did, is for Bitcoin price to double. So the number of new Bitcoins in a block halved. So the price has to double to keep the mining revenue the same. And that's what we're waiting for. So what's very important is that we see a bottom in the mining revenue from where it grows into the next bull market. So we see a bottom here too, after 2016, and here, same thing, after 2012 halving, there's a bottom, and then puff, the bull market starts. It may very well be that we have seen the bottom of this shakeout, this after halving minor shakeout in June, because July already had a higher minor revenue than June. So what we also see is that difficulty, so the hash rate basically jumped today with plus 10%, and that indicates that the old miners, the old and small miners indeed left the market, and that the new equipment is taking over, and we'll see rising hash rates, which is good for Bitcoin security, and rising prices into the future.
Now, thank you so much. Let me know what you think about that Plan B chart there. I think it is important to pay attention to what's happening behind the scenes with some of the biggest sellers of Bitcoin. Let me know if you want me to show another one of his charts from his recent video. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next video. Again, if you want to trade, there's that link to Margex and CoinW and Blowfin underneath. Bye.